about no more. Hangouts on the Air is going away August 1st. Wow. I better take up on some of those suggestions we were talking about.
So far, StreamYard is in the lead. I was on a StreamYard broadcast, and it's a little bit different animal, but so far it's in the lead.
I'll have to check that one out first. All right. Well, welcome to the Lock and Load show, and we've got ice. That doesn't mean we're racist. That just means we got ice for my Jack and Coke. And welcome to the fabulous Lock and Load show on the world famous White Volcano Squad and Gun Channel's platform and broadcasting across the internet and across the universe. Guns, freedom, truth, and until dawn, and or before, at least dawn somewhere. It'll be dawn somewhere when we conclude the show. But so we were going through this, the last thing in the pre-chat about Facebook group of 700,000 users jokingly signed up. They were planning on storming Area 51 in September, and the U.S. Air Force isn't laughing. But I was saying that I assume they're all going to get really stoned, go hit Taco Bell, and get one of those new Rage fries or whatever kind of pepper fries with cheese and stuff that I'm not allowed to eat anymore. And have a really good time, but probably they won't get there. It's going to be really hard to get in for them. And the person who started the page says this was just a joke. Don't blame me if people show up. I'm just trying to get thumbs up or something on this Facebook page. Which will bring me to my first topic what's been going on with the Federal Reserve, People's Bank of China, and Steve Mnuchin and Donald Trump. Over the weekend, crypto was down a bit. Today it's up. But so Trump said Bitcoin is based on thin air. And so my thought was, it's more the opposite is more the truth, that the US dollar is based on thin air. It's a debt-based fiat currency run by banks that are all fractional reserve lending institutions. So what's based on thin air is pretty much every fiat currency on the planet. But leaving that aside, which is hard to do. I wanted to talk about, there were some crazy notions. The thing about the internet is when there's some current event that happens, people with large channels try and get views, and God alone knows why, because the whole thing with the whole social engineering thing based on views is, I think, being replaced by social engineering, which would bring us back to why Facebook is releasing a currency, trying to release a cryptocurrency, but that isn't a cryptocurrency. They're trying to release an internet currency. But what happens is that when there's a current event like Iran threatens the Hormuz Straits because their economy is suffering from U.S. sanctions, is that everybody starts connecting dots that don't exist. And so one large channel was saying that, well, what's going to happen is Iran's going to shut down the Strait of Hormuz, then that will cause the derivative bubble to pop, and then the banking system will collapse and the world economy will be destroyed within 48 hours after Iran. But the whole thing is, okay, it's impossible. Liechtenstein has more of a chance than closing the Strait of Hormuz than Iran does. And so I wanted, in the pre-chat, I asked Squib to explain to just regular people who've never been in the military why it would be next to him, why Iran can't just close the Strait of Hormuz. Because to just maybe a regular person, they've got Chinese Silkworm missiles, they're right there. They could shoot those missiles and things, and they've got subs, and a helicopter carrier, and a few frigates. So why is it impossible for Iran to close the Straits of Hormuz? Because that's where these people getting views for their theories. I mean, it's like what I was talking about last week with the whole fear porn thing. I don't mind entertaining a theory if it's at least possible, but I just don't. I guess Squib is still muted, but he's driving home from work, so he's tired. And maybe he could explain it to us when he comes back on.
I was just waiting for you to stop talking.
Be in for a long wait on that. Go ahead.
Okay, so for those who are young and think nothing happened before they were born, and for those who were screwing off in the 80s, and for those who are just plain ignorant, they tried this in the late 80s. During the Iran-Iraq War, Kuwait financially backed Iraq, and Iraq won the war. Now, to get back at Kuwait, Iran was threatening Kuwaiti oil tankers coming through the Persian Gulf out to the world, including America, who at that time was more dependent on foreign oil. Because of the threat against Kuwait and our need for the oil, we reflagged the Kuwaiti oil tankers with a U.S. flag, and they said, if you attack these ships, you're attacking American ships. And we had American military ships escorting them through the Straits of Hormuz. At that time, the Silkworm missile was the big threat, in addition to Iranian aircraft and their small, pathetic navy. They did some damage to some American ships. They did some damage to some oil tankers. A lot of it was due to mines. They never fired a Silkworm missile. We tore them up. We sank their ships. We captured their crews. We attacked the platforms, the oil platforms that they were using as bases out there in the Gulf. And we more or less sent the message. It took a couple of years, but we sent the message. The oil will flow. We will be here. You don't stand a chance against us. Quit screwing around. And eventually they did. Now, a lot of things have been happening lately, and it sounds a lot like what happened in the late 80s all over again. And it's surprising because Donald Trump was quite aware of what was going on. This was on ABC News every night. And because oil is something that affects the world economy, I cannot believe the man had no idea that we were reflagging Kuwaiti oil tankers, Straits of Hormuz, Silkworm missiles, blah, 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 all the same language all over again. Unless he killed all those brain cells between then and now, I can't believe him and some of the people that are at least my age, if not older, that work for him haven't said, they tried this before, it didn't work.
First of all, you said ABC News. I'm trying to remember. People don't watch ABC News anymore, do they?
I'm talking about back in the 80s, before there was CNN, before the Gulf War.
I know.
Before the Gulf War.
But a lot of people who are listening might not actually remember the 80s. Go ahead.
Well, they I don't know. You should have been sober, whatever. So the thing is, history's repeating itself, and they still don't stand a chance. You can say, well, it's been 30 years. They've modernized their military. They've done this. They've done that. No, they haven't. Even if you look at the numbers, and that's a problem. You have people looking at numbers going, well, they've got 20,000 tanks and 1 million men and 15 frigates and 2,000 helicopter stuff. Look at some of this stuff. It's going to be old. It's going to be broke down. Some of the ships are going to be stuck in dry dock. They can't afford to, put fuel in them. They can't afford to fix them. Their crews are trained. It looks like Keystone Cops out there. It's just a mess.
Yeah, but if you and Jared parachute in or whatever, they might be able to stop you guys.
I doubt it. The thing is, one of our aircraft carriers has enough firepower to level Iran. Not take out just a couple military, level the whole damn country. One aircraft carrier, not counting any of the other ships in the battle group, or if they send over more than one carrier or put in ground troops or anything else like that. We have that much firepower on a modern aircraft carrier. So
and the one that's there now is the Abraham Lincoln.
Okay. And that's a Nimitz class, and it's going to have 95 aircraft and 5,000 people on board. It's also going to be surrounded by a defensive ring of frigates, destroyers. It's going to have at least 2 supply ships, 2 subs, and it could have an amphibious assault group attached to it.
Is there enough room in the Persian Gulf for all those ships? I mean, to move around and maneuver?
In the 80s, we kept an aircraft carrier battle group and a battleship battle group in the Persian Gulf because of this. Now we don't have battleships, so they just have to do it with aircraft carriers. But even something like a frigate or a destroyer has the ability to attack surface ships, has the ability to attack submarines, has the ability to take out incoming aircraft, and can even do shore bombardment up to a certain distance onto the shore. So even one of the smaller ships that's tasked with protecting the aircraft carrier has offensive firepower that is just no match for the Iranians. The biggest threat back then and the biggest threat now are mines. Even though we have sophisticated mine countermeasures and anti-mine type equipment and whatnot, even with regular mine sweeping, there's still a chance you could hit a mine, and it could be an old-fashioned World War I magnetic mine, and it could, or a contact mine, and that could be enough to disable a military ship or a civilian ship.
Now, or I don't know if all oil tankers in the Persian Gulf have been modernized, but they're not just single hull ships anymore. I think they're like double hulled and
right, but it's not gonna be as well protected as a military ship, and they will be compartmentalized. But military ships are actually designed to take damage. They're actually designed with compartments, and they're called frames. And if one part of the ship gets damaged, they can block off that part of the ship to prevent the whole ship from flooding. I can't say that about a civilian ship like an oil tanker. And a lot of people think that every military ship is armor plated, and they're not actually. Battleships and destroyers are battleships and aircraft carriers are armor plated. The other ships are not. It's thin armor, or it's no different than a civilian ship. But
right.
Once you get inside, once you get through the hull, it's compartmentalized in a way to prevent the ship from sinking.
Well, and the thing about oil tankers, I mean, tell me if I'm wrong about this, is they can't flood because they're already full of a liquid. I mean, they're already full of oil. There's no place for the water to go.
I mean, what I remember about the oil tankers that hit mines back in the 80s were that they leaked a lot of oil and they had to be towed, and they had to send out firefighting ships and all this other stuff, but I don't remember them actually sinking an oil tanker. The big
what I remember, I'm just asked to put this out there, was when a submarine warfare was successful against tankers was the Germans in Operation Drumbeat off the U.S. coast.
Well, also the Americans against the Japanese. We copied some of the German tactics, and we used it on because they had really limited resources. They'd be coming from, I think, Malaysia with the oil to Japan to refine, and we'd be sinking the few tankers that they had. And you really cut off the fuel supply and starve them out.
Fuel, rubber, and they were so afraid of U.S. The Japanese were so afraid of the U.S. submarine, unrestricted submarine warfare, that they were afraid to ship the gold that they'd accumulated from all over Asia and Malaysia from the Philippines to Japan. That they knew if they put it on a boat, it would just get sunk. So they buried it. Yamashita's gold. Anybody has seen some of that on I don't know, the Discovery Channel or something, the hidden World War II gold, hidden secret stuff, World War II gold and stuff.
Modern day subs are quieter than the old timey subs. And American sub technology is much better than the Russian sub technology. However, modern day anti-submarine warfare equipment is so good at detecting subs that I'm really not worried about the threat from any Iranian subs, even if they weren't detected and they fired their torpedoes, they're going to give away they're automatically going to know, hey, there's a sub in the area. They're going to send aircraft up and they're going to send destroyers and frigates out there. They'll find them, they'll sink them. So, and you have to understand too, even though a torpedo can do a serious amount of damage, a torpedo hit does not necessarily, has in the past hit the ship just right and broke it right in half and it sank in minutes. But it's not necessarily always going to happen. You also have failures with things like torpedoes and missiles where they launch and they sputter out and don't make it to the target, or they have a guidance system failure. I mean, all kinds of things can go wrong. I'm not saying you should just strut back and forth up and down the Straits of Hormuz and say they can't get us. But, I mean, they really just, they don't have a surefire way to, with one hit, sink every ship that passes by. Also, the Straits of Hormuz are international water. So if they attack a ship in international water, that's not going to be good. If the ship goes within 12 miles of the coast of Iran, they've got every right to defend their territory. But after that, they're asking for trouble by attacking another ship in international waters. I'm really not worried about it, but for the people who've never served in the military, have never had to deal with foreign powers like that or anything, on paper, it looks menacing. But you got to remember, let's roll back the clock and let's look at history again. The first Gulf War, we were fighting the fourth largest army in the world. And everybody said, even Saddam, he said, it'll be the mother of all battles because Iran and Iraq had just got done with a war. Iraq had won. Their troops were seasoned. We hadn't fought anybody since Vietnam, not anything major. And we had a lot of new equipment that was untested. We weren't set up for desert warfare. We didn't have desert camouflage, hardly any in supply. Our equipment was set up for fighting the Russians in Europe, not fighting in the desert. And there were a lot of people that said, we're going up. We're not sending our entire military over there. They have the advantage. This is their home territory. They're dug in, and there are more of them than there are of us. And we whipped their ass. There
wasn't any place to hide. In Vietnam, they had triple canopy jungles to hide in. There wasn't.
They were moving those. What were those missiles that they were launching? Those ballistic missiles, the Scud missiles. They were moving the Scud missiles around, and we did not find all of them because they stayed mobile. And even though they had some home field advantages for where they were setting up their defenses, we tricked them. We tricked them into thinking we were coming from one direction when we came from another. And all of our equipment, we had better targeting systems. We could fire on the move. They couldn't fire on the move. We had better trained troops, even though they had troops that were more recently in combat in a major war. And when they started getting killed, they all surrendered en masse. The Iranians will do the same thing. If we went over there, now, first off, we had a coalition of other countries with us, but we were the main fighting force in the first Gulf War. We had to have those other Arabic countries with us in order to kind of make it okay that we were attacking one of their, because we were actually worried that if we went in there with nobody's support or only the support of Kuwait, which was a government in absentia, they had fled the country, or maybe even just the support of Kuwait and Saudi Arabia, that the other Arab countries would go, oh no, you don't come over here and attack. So we had to include other, and they of course jumped in with their, half-ass equipment and joined us, but we were the majority of the fighting force over there. If we went over today and did it, it would be smart to try to involve these other Arabic countries into a coalition again and attack Iran with more than just the United States. That way we would have the support instead of going alone and then the other Arabic countries go, oh, you don't come over here, and then we really do end up with a bloodbath. Well, I don't think we necessarily need to attack Iran or we necessarily need to have boots on the ground. But if they mine the straits, then we need to sink any of their military ships that come out into international waters. And if they fire missiles at us, we need to hit their bases where they keep the missiles and maybe even some other targets as well. We don't necessarily have to target civilians, but we can cripple their military infrastructure to a point where they don't even have anything at all to fight with. What they have, when you have somebody who doesn't understand military stuff, looking at stats on paper to be the same thing. This is the fourth largest army. We're in big trouble. No, we whipped their ass. The same thing with Iran. You're going to have people fearmonger and go, oh, well, first off, they're not going to go back and look at history and go, oh, yeah, we did whip their ass before. But
No,
they go, well, we've got 95 planes and they've got 2,000. Dude, I'll put 5 of our planes up against their 2,000.
What I remember about Operation Desert Shield and Desert Storm is that the biggest factor was the terrain. There was, against modern military targeting systems, there was no place for them to hide. They could entrench and fortify, but there's no place for them to hide. In Vietnam, they were hiding. There was every place to hide. Tunnels, triple canopy jungles. They were under the U.S. bases. I mean, they were everywhere.
It wasn't that so much that it was the open desert, because the open desert plagued. Okay, we had issues with the weather keeping aircraft from flying. We had issues with sandstorms. We had issues with, as far as okay, sure, you've got jungle canopy, but all you have to do is paint a tank tan and dig a tank pit and put it in there, and you may not even see it from the air. So,
are you kidding? Just the heat signature.
That's just it. We didn't have that sort of technology in Vietnam. In Vietnam, when we first started shooting at Vietnamese supply trucks coming down the Ho Chi Minh Trail into South Vietnam, we weren't using Maverick air-to-ground missiles. We were using Falcon air-to-air missiles because they were the first missiles we had that were heat seekers. They were designed to shoot down planes by going up a plane's exhaust. And they said, can this thing shoot at a target on the ground? I don't know, let's try it. So they were actually shooting at trucks with missiles designed to shoot down jets because we didn't have anything to go air to ground. At the end of the war, we developed laser-guided bombs. At the end of the war, we were getting closer and closer to GPS. And, you know, by the first Gulf War, we had GPS, we had laser-guided bombs, we had thermal imaging, we had all kinds of stuff. And then once again, we had stuff like our tanks could fire on the move. You could have an Abrams doing 60 miles an hour, jumping over sand dunes and hitting a target 3 miles away. And they had Russian tanks, and even their most modern Russian tanks had to be standing still to fire. So even though they had more tanks than us, we could see them before they could see us. We could move and fire, and they couldn't move and fire. And we had better training. We had guns that could shoot further. We had all these advantages that made up for their numbers. So even though the Iranians have the home field advantage and they have a lot of numbers on paper, you have to look at how many of those troops are actually well-trained and willing to fight and die.
Well,
and then how much of that equipment is serviceable.
Yeah, I think we also need to step back and realize that Donald Trump is not going to order the United States into another war.
But there's nothing wrong with him having limited military strikes if he has to. Let's say they do fire a Silkworm missile at a American ship. Even if it falls into the ocean and doesn't make it to the ship, at that point, he has every right to attack that, at the very least, the installation they fired it from. Turn it into a crater.
Well, I'm going to share with you what I think Donald Trump's plan really is, and it has nothing to do with it. I mean, today, I think the House passed or pushed some resolution to condemn Donald Trump for his tweets or something. I mean, of all the things the House could do, what Donald Trump would like to do, if he could, he would like to get the U.S., Mexico, Canada trade agreement signed, because if there's like this new U.S., Canada, Mexico trade agreement is signed, then the Chinese will start. Well, they're going to realize that if they don't sign something really soon, they're going to be like locked out of the U.S. market for all intents and purposes, and all their manufacturing is fleeing to Mexico. And Mexico is going to get all the companies are moving their manufacturing so they can avoid tariffs from China to Mexico, and they're going to have a massive fear of missing out, and President Xi just realized we need to sign an agreement now. And if Donald Trump somehow gets Nancy Pelosi to put forward and pass the USMCA agreement, and then that's followed up by a Chinese trade agreement with China, then the stock markets, which is already at a record high at 27,000 points, the Dow, it'll go over 30 or maybe even 40 the way they print money around here. And 40,000, it'll go crazy. And then he'll win the election, and then he'll have what every first term president wants, a second term. So that's his plan. And it has and going into Iran would just fuck everything up. I mean, I'm not saying a limited strike would fuck everything up, but like invading Iran would really fuck everything up. So he's not going to do that no matter what they do. And I think Iran knows that. So when you're dealing with the whole planet, it's not so simple as just dealing with Iran. Yeah, Iran is basically kind of like, to me, it seems like an annoying gnat that won't go away or something, or one of those flies you have to just brush off your leg because it wants to keep landing on your leg or something, and you just get out of here. You know, we got better things to do than fuck with Iran. So I think it's going to be, he'll do whatever he has to, but he's not going to put any extra effort into Iran, if you want my personal opinion, because he's got bigger fish to fry. And so does America. And that's my opinion. All right, so now that we've dealt with international politics, geopolitical drama, I've got the mine markers, Swiss Military Mine Marker 5-pack here on Sportsman's Guide. They have a sale on Milsurp because this is Amazon Prime Day, and I'm personally not a member of Amazon Prime. I buy stuff off Amazon all the time, but I did buy some more stuff for my some of my upcoming videos. Survival hack on I'm building a kill flash for my binoculars. And my regular straws are too big, and no place around here sells coffee straws, so I had to buy them off Amazon. All right. So I'm not going to buy these mine markers, but they do look interesting. You could put these around Dusty's farm, and then maybe nobody will try and come in. For $12, it's cheap psychological warfare. Okay, let's see. I'm going to take a quick look at the externals, see if anybody's out there typing. Let's see, Jesse James, negotiator. Home here now. One dirty bomb. The strait is a wasteland for that. How can they're going to bomb the ocean? Is what you're saying? You're worried about? I don't think so. Because water moves around. I have no idea about the ocean, the currents of the ocean through the Strait of Hormuz. I don't know which way it flows. Jesse James, Steve D. Let's see. They used to fly at night with UH-1 helicopters with a giant spotlight with 2 gunships behind them. The VC would shoot at the helicopter with a big light. Well, the gunships fight behind the Firefly would light them up. The VC on the ground with their guns, right? Well, if you're dumb enough to shoot at, well, I guess it's always bad to underestimate your enemy, but the VC did the North Vietnamese army and the Viet Cong did manage to kill an awful lot of good Americans. I'll say that for them. Whatever you think of them. It's a good thing that war's over. That's another war we didn't need. All right. I got to get to the whole thing with the silver. What's been happening that's weird, that's been on the internet a little, is that lately gold has been going up and silver has been going down, which is not the way it's supposed to happen, which means market manipulation. So the last few days, there's been a rumor of that the People's Bank of China
is going long silver and taking long positions on silver futures through JP Morgan based on the Commitment of Traders report. So who knows? I have no strategy for, there's no, you just have to, if you're like holding gold and silver like me, you just got to hold on and wait for an event that will stop the manipulation to occur. I don't know when that's going to be. I don't have a crystal ball. I can only speak to the mathematical inevitability of Deutsche Bank failing, but it's not going to fail because of anything that happens in Iran. That's another one of my 2 cents. All right, let me think. I think I pulled some interesting stories out of here. Before I get to the whole Bitcoin based on thin air thing. Right, the whale. Okay, we were talking in the pre-chat. Shane Black, who is famous for his role in Predator as Rick Hawkins. I didn't know that he had written the films Lethal Weapon and Lethal Weapon 2. So there's a tidbit for you guys. I watched Predator twice last night. So okay. All right, well, I think I'll get into the whole Bitcoin is not based on. I'm going to read this interesting article off of Ethereum World News. Last week, President Donald Trump indicated one of the reasons he hates Bitcoin is because it's based on thin air. This raised questions of whether the U.S. dollar is fiat or actually based on anything solid. The debate is now on fiat banking. When it comes to banking, for example, financial institutions employ fractional reserve banking. With this mode of banking, only a section of deposits is backed by actual cash on hand. Consequently, only this fraction is available for withdrawal. For example, when a bank customer deposits $1,000, the bank may retain $100 in actual cash and then use the remaining $900 to issue out loans. The $100 is therefore reserve. Although Trump thinks that Bitcoin is based on thin air, fractional reserve banking creates money by using a percentage of the bank's deposits. Additionally, there's the narrative that the U.S. dollar is backed by debt, and the largest army in the world is willing and eager to fight wars to protect it. And that was the one thing that Steve Mnuchin said that actually made any sense today. Was when he did a news conference on cryptocurrencies, and the one thing he says is that the Treasury Department takes seriously its responsibility for the role of the U.S. dollar as a world reserve currency. That was the one thing he said that I actually believed. Everything else was bullshit. And this was on Reddit, this interesting quote somebody put on Reddit. Here it is. If the issue of how money is created is put for debate, we will have a revolution next week. It is well enough that people of the nation do not understand our banking and monetary system. For if they did, I would believe there would be a revolution before tomorrow morning. Well, let's see. Interestingly, Bitcoin has a higher intrinsic value compared to the US dollar and fiat in general. For something that to have economic or inherent value, it must have utility and scarcity. Therefore, if it has utility but without scarcity, it is abundant but doesn't have intrinsic value. Also, if it's scarce but without utility, it still lacks intrinsic value. And Bitcoin here's another quote, Bitcoin is the most predictive, mathematically provable, strictest scarcity ever conceived, and has the potential to be the most useful form of money ever invented, therefore potentially making it one of the world's most valuable objects, even though it's not real. Scarcity is a done deal, and every day that passes with every newly added user to the network, new developer, new liquidity, new app, Bitcoin's utility increases exponentially. Well, personally, I like other cryptocurrencies, but most of my crypto stash is Bitcoin, just percentage-wise, and Bitcoin dominance is like it's over 66% as far as the value of all the cryptocurrencies put together, which is astonishing. Because it's so centralized. It's so not what the white paper was like. supposed to be on, but seems like Bitcoin Cash was up today. Bitcoin SV was up today. Bitcoin was up today, but it got clobbered over the weekend. So up and down, up and down. It's like one of those things where for me, I read the news, but I don't really. It's hard to get me to panic over anything anymore. I don't know. The one interesting thing is that they have, like, just having my Exodus wallet. They have the U.S. dollar stable coins, which are supposed to match the U.S. dollar. So you can, instead of converting to U.S. dollars, if Bitcoin goes to some astronomical level, I could buy a bunch of stable coins, and in theory, if Bitcoin crashes the next day, I would still retain the value without actually having gone to the U.S. dollar. But the problem with stable coins is the people that run those coins, the developers. I don't. You have to trust. You have to have developers that have a philosophy that isn't just about isn't run like the banking system, and there isn't. So I don't trust the coins as much as I would trust like Bitcoin. So if you put everything into a U.S. dollar coin, you have to realize if the banking fails, those coins will fail. If the banking system hiccups, those coins will stop working. And that's the problem with like Ripple or XRP. If the banking system goes down, the banks will be forced to liquidate everything, and including their Ripple holdings, and then Ripple will just have no buyers and it'll crash. Not that it's worth very much now, but that's the banking system's cryptocurrency. Hey, Squib, did you see Oily Prepper's video about her with her calf eating that watermelon?
Yep.
That was so cute. That was so funny. Like they just cut a watermelon in half, put it on the ground, and the calf was like stuck its face in and started eating the watermelon. Anyway. All right. I was looking at, it's like this whole last week. I mean, I knew this was going to be Amazon Prime Day. I'm not an Amazon Prime member, but I do get an amazing amount of my preps and stuff off of Amazon, because living on an island, it's like I could still get, if you click the choice for like 8 or 9 day deliveries, it's still free. You just have to wait a little longer, and I don't mind waiting for free delivery. So, but it's the whole thing about doing prepping and like being into prepping, and it's I do it because it's fun and it's smart, but I don't do it because I'm panicked by world events. I mean, that's the whole thing. If something happens and you're a prepper, you don't really need to run out to Walmart or Target and do anything, because you're already ready. You were ready before whatever fake news hit the air or real news hit the air. And there's so much stuff happening in the world. I mean, the hurricanes, the Louisiana. I mean, there's nowhere I think in the United States that you can go where you will there's no chance of like nothing bad happening. I mean, if you live in New Orleans, okay, that's you just pick your home is underneath is below sea level. That could be a problem one day. And that's why they built the levees and stuff, but one day may not be enough. And hey, I live on a island with a bunch of volcanoes. That could be a problem one day. But I found it to be less of a problem than living in Malibu, which is living in a fire hazard. I've had a place burned down, had the house next door washed out to sea in the mudslides after all the vegetation was. Yeah, well, if you live in Oklahoma, there could be tornadoes. And it's just, there's no place in America where there isn't something that could go wrong. New York City, just had a blackout. and I guess de Blasio was busy in Iowa campaigning. I don't think he's going to win. So the other thing, it's like these people in the Democratic Party are nuts. There is no way they're going to win an election the way they're going. I mean, and that's the reason they want open borders. Excuse me. More drink. Yeah. So they want open borders so they can redefine the voter base. But the whole thing with Libra, then the Congress is having hearings about Libra and calling up Facebook. The threat from that particular currency is to the US dollar. There's like 310 million people in America, more give or take. And Facebook has over 2 billion users. So if 2 billion people on the planet tomorrow start using Facebook currency, then the US dollar becomes kind of irrelevant overnight, up to a point. And I was trying to explain it to my folks the other night, and they asked me, well, why would Facebook even want to have their own currency? And the answer to that question was pretty simple: so they can socially control the world through social engineering. And the Congress doesn't want to let them do it because Congress wants to control the world through social engineering, except they don't know how, and Facebook does. And they just reminded me that I think a long time ago, my folks' financial counselor advised them to buy Amazon when it was like at $20 a share, and now it's over $2,000. And my dad asked, well, how can a company sell? How can it sell anything if they don't have any stores? And it was just, well, they don't need stores, but it's very difficult because it's a generational thing. And I think that there's a certain amount of that with cryptocurrencies. It's just people cannot conceive. They don't have the imaginations. The people who run Facebook and Google have they're very imaginative when it comes to ways to make money by selling people's data and selling information. And what they're doing in China, I mean, it's a police state, so they use it. And the police there have special police goggles, and they just wear their police goggles, and they can look at a person, and without doing anything, the goggles will use facial recognition to ID whoever it is standing in front of them, put their credit score and their social engineering score just displayed on the glasses, so they can determine if they're going to let them do anything. I mean, you can't get on a plane or get on a bus or get on a train without a proper social engineering score or a social score, whatever they call it. And all that stuff is just it's like worse than 1984, the book about Big Brother. And we don't live in that kind of police state here, but that's where the technology is logically heading. So, and in the future, I mean, whether or not crypto becomes a currency, the blockchain can obviously be used to track every morsel of food that's out there, for example. So everything is going to be at least tracked, and government is going to want to retain control. All governments, just it's their nature. They are what they are. The good ones, the bad, the medium ones, the indifferent ones, the
benevolent ones and the malevolent ones. So, I mean, so keeping all that in mind, the threat is that if Facebook is in charge of the currency, then the Democrats, they can't just print more money, endlessly print money, and give away free stuff to their voter base, because they won't be able to print money anymore if the U.S. dollar isn't the world reserve currency. And because of how many users Facebook has, if 2 billion people on the planet start using Facebook currency, then and all they have to do is like swipe their phone or something in front of a cash register scanner or something, then who needs fiat currency anymore? But the world's just changing, and I guess you just have to roll with the punches and just, I don't think that any more than an average amount of preparedness is going to be necessary. I mean, a lot of preppers go off the deep end, and hey, if you're having fun doing that, then that's cool. I mean, but as far as all the fear porn that's out there over every time something happens, it's not. It's. I mean, I could go to the beach and not worry about it, because when I get home, everything is all is good to go for any kind of economic interruption, hiccup, or short of World War III. I mean, and there's a lot of scenarios that World War III, that could be really scary. It's like we decide, let's say the Democrats win the election somehow, and they say, well, screw Israel. We don't care if Iran gets a nuclear weapon. That's you'll just have to deal with it, Israel. So then Israel nukes Iran, Russia nukes Israel. The U.S. has to respond, and so the U.S. starts it just escalates, and then you have it just could happen like that. But there isn't anything prepping is gonna make a difference. I mean, if that happens, that'll be like a worldwide apocalypse. And with regard to Ocasio-Cortez and Tlaib and all these people that hate America and obviously hate Israel and freedom and Jewish people in general, it's like they aren't the squad. The people are calling them the squad because there's 4 women, and it's more like they're the 4 horsewomen of the apocalypse is who they are, especially for the Democratic Party, because I don't care how many Central American immigrants they give voter ID cards to that just cross the border, they're not going to win the next election with those people running the party. It's just they're going to lose no matter what they do. And I just hope that the best case scenario happens and that somehow Trump pulls a rabbit out of a hat by getting Nancy Pelosi to put forward the USMCA. Then China kind of gets a little scared and signs some kind of trade agreement, and the stock market does go up to like Dow 50,000 or something crazy. That would be a relatively happy ending for the Trump administration. And then when eventually there's a Democrat in the White House, everything will go up to shit. But I should also probably mention that I'm really pissed at the state, our governor in the state who signed our red flag gun laws, gun confiscation laws, and that bill to repeal the Second Amendment or something didn't go anywhere in the Hawaii legislature, but they passed the red flag gun confiscation order laws. So I'm not particularly happy about that one. But the police haven't knocked on my door yet. So I guess they're going to try and get us one at a time or something. I don't know. Jared was texting me about his Gen 5 Glock 17 and his optic on it. So I was hoping he'd come on and share so we could have like a Gun Channel's Money Shot thing.
but I haven't seen him on. I'm going to check the external, see if he's out there typing. There's a difference between money and currency? Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I have so much silver, it's like I don't need to panic buy more. I mean, I bought a few ounces like a couple weeks back, but it wasn't anything big. I mean, I already have a lot. So, I mean, I'll put up that article really quick. Let me do a screen share and read that for all you silver guys, people that are like collecting silver coins and such. I'm one of them. Let's see. Here it is. A whale is accumulating silver. So on goldmoney.com, oh, I got to press all these buttons in the right order to get everything to screen share. At least I figured out that it was the Brave browser is like almost an exact copy of Google Chrome without being Google Chrome, but Google has blocked the Brave browser from screen sharing on Hangouts, which are going away apparently. So we're going to have to go on to a different system, and Scribble will remind me what to type. And I'll do it in a channel announcement for that one when we have to put the show on a different platform, because this platform is going away. So here we are. Silver's recent price performance has been disappointing. Normally, it's almost twice as volatile as gold. So when the gold prices rises 11%, as it has since last December, you would expect silver to rise by about 20%. Instead, it has fallen marginally. When we dig into the weekly commitment of traders reports covering COMEX futures, we see something very odd indeed. The largest 4 traders, normally bullion banks or major producers hedging future output, almost always run short positions against speculators' longs. The more bullish speculators are, the more shorts are carried by the big 4 to accommodate them. Equally, they only go net long when the speculators are extremely bearish and are collectively marginally long or exceptionally net short. Not now, as the following chart of the largest 4 trader net positions have shows. Here's the chart. The number of contracts, either net long or net short, are derived from the concentration ratios in the weekly commitment of traders releases. The net long position is standing at a record high, a move that started in March 2017, marked by the arrow here. It's right there. I'm circling it with my pointer. You guys can see that, but all right, with respect to the concentration ratios, the CFTC, and that's another thing. CFTC, that's the alphabet soup that Steve Mnuchin said is one of the agencies he wants to regulate cryptocurrencies, including Facebook's Libra, which isn't really a blockchain currency. It's something that Facebook wants to run it through a Swiss bank. The CFTC, okay, a long time ago, there was actually a person put in charge, a lady who wanted to stop the price manipulation of metals, including silver, on the CFTC. She was in charge of it, and she tried. She was called before Congress, called a lot of nasty names, and basically told, to shut up, be quiet, sit at her desk, and do nothing. So she resigned. And since then, nobody has ever bothered to try and stop manipulation of prices on the CFTC. Who is responsible for that sort of thing? So putting the CFTC in charge of cryptos is, there's a lot of regulations that could be useful. Regulation could be a good thing for cryptos, but it's just that putting our government in charge of regulations is just that they do everything wrong. And if they want to somehow make sure that the exchanges that buy and sell cryptos actually have the cryptos in people's accounts that they say they have, that would be a good thing. Because they don't right now. But that's not going to happen. So you're just going to have to wait for the system to collapse, and then there'll be a lot of chaos. And if you don't have your cryptos, it's like if you don't have your silver at your house, if it's someplace else, you're not going to get it back wherever it is. So anyway, so I saw that alphabet soup and it set me off. Sorry. The report shows that the percents of open interest held by the largest 4 and 8 reportable traders, without regard to whether they are classified as commercial or non-commercial, the concentration ratios are shown with traded positions computed on a gross long, gross short basis and on net long or net short basis. I said sending Squib into sleep with this stuff. The net position ratios are computed after offsetting each trader's equal long and short positions. Portable trader with a relatively large balance. The long and short of this is that China, the People's Bank of China, is going long silver. One can speculate to what their reasons are. See, they appear to be blissfully unaware that they are, as a group, short to a very large buyer in their own ranks. Well, I don't think silver is going to shoot up anytime soon because you just had this one. Like I said, it's one of those things you just have to wait. Throw it in your secret storage place and don't worry about it until it's worth a hell of a lot more, has a lot more buying power than it has right now. It's not going to never not be silver. Here's the thing about the gold standard. Why was the gold standard a good thing? Okay. Here it is in like one sentence. Gold never defaults. Gold doesn't default. It can't default. The U.S. government, they have to vote for debt increase, raise the debt ceiling again, or it will default. And we're at like $22.5 trillion in debt as a nation, not counting unfunded liabilities. So, I mean, in order for the Democrats to give away all their free stuff, they have to keep printing money. So they don't want Facebook to have a currency at all. So I imagine they're gonna call up all the Facebook people, and we're going to smile and try and be nice and understanding and say how they only have people's best interest at heart, and it's going to be run. The Democrats are just going to, it's going to be like worse than the Judge Kavanaugh hearings. And I really could imagine it happening to a nicer bunch of people. I mean, who likes Facebook? I mean, it's like the nerd, it's like the evil nerd or something, right? It being put in, some evil nerd is going to be in charge of socially engineering the planet. That's what they want. They want their decisions of who can talk and who can, who they can control what you say, or who they can get to self. What's the word I'm looking for?
Not self-promote.
No,
Gratify?
Oh, your mind is in the gutter. Your mind is in the gutter. What is it when they go through when you send a letter home and they go through it when you're in the military and they delete parts of it? What's it called?
Censor.
Yeah, they want people to self-censor by the threat of their control over your social score, like in China. If you say something about Tiananmen Square massacre, you aren't going to be able to get on a plane, you aren't going to be able to get on a train, and if you walk down the street, the police with their special goggles are going to kick the ever-living shit out of you. Because facial recognition will see you, and it'll pop up. You'll have a social negative score, as in it'll say enemy of the state, So, and then you're going to have a hard time with the Chinese police with their special goggles. And they want that. I mean, they want that measure of control. I don't know if it was who it was that says, I don't care who passes a law, just give me control of the currency. And I don't know. Whoever said that at least understood something about banking. So as far as I'm really, I can't see any reason to panic buy anything. But I think it's a good idea if you have a lot of preps. It would be a good idea to like create a database, some kind of spreadsheet, and just do a tally of everything you have, and then look at it, and then try and figure out what your weaknesses are. Like if you got like 10 million rounds of ammo, then maybe you ought to look at your food or your energy or fuel or medical or some other stuff, and see if it's anywhere near. Kind of bring your preps into some kind of balance. At least know what you have, and not just like bury caches all over the place and assume. I mean, don't share it with anybody or anything, but that would be something useful to do. As opposed to just running out and buying another 2,000 pounds of rice, 500 5-gallon Mylar bags, and a food saver, and some oxygen absorbers and buckets, and a lot of soy sauce. But I don't know. So when the prices of gold and silver change, I don't feel the need to panic buy anymore because I already have some. I don't know if I should read the end of this article about silver, but I think I will. Why the trail of evidence leads to China. Let's see. In 2012, he was speaking at a conference in New York in which a number of silver mining minnows had stands in the hope of attracting investors. Those are people with stocks, companies trying to sell stock. I visited all of them to establish the answer to a simple question. How do they ship their silver out? Who paid them and when? The reason for asking this question was there were allegations going the rounds about the dark deeds of JP Morgan manipulating the silver futures market. The silver market was open to manipulation by the big banks, and there was little doubt, and JP Morgan was definitely a major force in the silver market. By not appearing to take credible allegations seriously, COMEX and the CFTC, as a regulator, gave the impression that they were colluding with JP Morgan, giving the whole story an extra spin. So the assumption that JP Morgan can simply ride roughshod over the CFTC and COMEX rulebook was really the weakness in the conspiracy theories. We are all aware of the crony capitalism between banks and regulators, but there are limits. Bending the interpretation of the rules is one thing, flagrantly breaking them to create false markets is another. However, there is little doubt that JP Morgan dominated trading in the COMEX silver futures, and my feeling was they were acting for a legitimate client instead of its own trading book. This was confirmed when Blythe Masters, highlight her name, then head of global commodities at JP Morgan and a hate figure for the silver conspiracy theorists. Yes, everybody, I've seen lots of videos just ranting about Blythe Masters. A month earlier, then the New York conference gave an interview where she clearly stated that JP Morgan's acted only for clients and did not run directional positions as a principal. I remember that interview. I think it was on Bloomberg. The outcry from conspiracy theorists was predictable, but I found it impossible to believe that Masters would give an interview, which appeared to be for the main purpose of refuting the rumors, then tell a barefaced lie. I don't know. Most lies are bald-faced lies, if you ask me. But when an interview says before answering, quote, that interviewee says before answering, quote, that is a great question. You can be reasonably sure that it was pre-agreed, so is an important and considered revelation. Recording of the interview confirms that that's what happened. You can find it. Go Blythe Masters and Google that one. The question then was, what role JP Morgan playing in the market? What were they playing? They had inherited the silver business from the acquisition of Bear Stearns in 2008 and continued
in that banking catastrophe and continued to develop it. There was no doubt that such a large investment bank had greater clout than Bear Stearns to manage the silver position. Given Blythe Masters' unequivocal denial that JP Morgan was running a trading position on its own book, it must have been acting for one very large client, and that was the evidence I was looking for at the New York conference. Silver miners all told the same story. When they had enough doré to ship, a specialist from Glencore would assess and certify the value of the silver content and arrange for it to be shipped to a refiner. If you've never seen how silver is refined, you should check it out on YouTube. There's got to be some videos, but it's like they have to smelt it twice to get out all the impurities, and it's labor intensive. Anyway, Glencore was working with JP Morgan, and the silver miner would be paid as soon as the doré was being shipped, enabling the miner to cover its day-to-day costs. Using the doré as collateral, JP Morgan would cover the price risk by selling COMEX silver futures or possibly selling silver on the LBMA for forward delivery. This was why Masters could truthfully say JP Morgan did not take a directional position. We should bear in mind that Glencore's assessors would also be assessing the silver content of base metal ores, because more than half of silver mine production is a byproduct of base metal processing. And in total involves very large amounts of silver. The sale of large amounts of futures contracts would follow to offset price risk. Boy, this keeps going. Let me skip ahead. Get to the end quicker. All purchases of the silver imported into China are the responsibility of the People's Bank of China, and that would be JP Morgan's underlying client, not Glencore. Given the standing and resources of the People's Bank and the leading positions of JP Morgan and Glencore in their respective industries, it's easy to envisage the existence of this high-level partnership and the importance of confidentiality. So, from China's point of view, I think they need the silver for their manufacturing. That at least the companies that don't flee out of China and are still manufacturing computers and cell phones and shit, they need silver for that. So they want to. That's what they want that for. Keep their manufacturing going. So they want the price to be cheap, but they want to buy lots of physical silver and have it shipped to China. Okay. Because they don't want to pay a lot of money for it. They want it cheap. They want it unreasonably cheap, and that's what it is. So anyway, this article, it's on goldmoney.com. You can go read it for yourself. I don't need to keep on going, but why is China now buying futures? Yeah, it keeps on going. I don't want to read this whole thing because it keeps on going and going. It's like the narrative. If this was a stock, I would say don't bother with it, because there's so many story stocks out there. That's all it ever is. It's a story. But with silver, it's actually something real. So, I think the bottom line is if you like collecting silver, if you like the shiny silver coins, go ahead and buy some. It doesn't hurt anything to have a little bit of silver stashed away. And but it doesn't hurt anything to have a little ammo stashed away, and nobody's talking about banning silver anytime soon. It might be declared a strategic metal at some point, and just like they'll say, turn in your gold or turn in your silver like they did. But what happened with gold is here's the thing: U.S. dollar used to be they used to be certificates where you could take a $20 bill to a bank and get $20 worth of gold. And after a while, they switched that to 40% reserve. So the Federal Reserve only had to have 40% of gold for all the dollars that were printed, and for all the paper currency that was out there, they only had to keep 40% reserve gold. And after, so then what happened was LBJ, President Lyndon Johnson, had his social program. What was his social program? The Great Society or something like that. And in between the money they had to print for that and the money they had to print to finance the Vietnam War, France was like the first country to start saying, okay, we're going to take all our US dollars and get gold because it's still redeemable. And so then all the other countries piled on, and it didn't take the Fed too long to figure out that there was a run on gold. So Richard Nixon took us off the gold standard entirely. And you can find his announcement on YouTube if you look for it, where Richard Nixon says, I am temporarily halting the redeemability of US dollars for gold. Temporarily, right? Yeah. As in France and everybody else, you're just shit out of luck. You can keep our paper, but you can't take our gold. Because there wouldn't have been any gold left if they kept that going. Oh man, need more ice. Ice is just something that's cool. So now they just print up money, and it's debt-based instrument. And banks can just open up their computers, type the amount of money on their keyboard, and bang, it's in an account. That's pretty much how they do it. So it's not surprising that all the other countries are being tired of being locked out of the SWIFT banking system every time they do something that pisses off the United States of America, like Iran or Russia or in China. And so they would all prefer that something else besides the US dollar be the world reserve currency. However, I don't think they're going to be very happy if Facebook is. They want to control it. They don't want Facebook to be in charge either. So it's like a fight for control of the planet. And we're just talking about, it's funny because we're talking about Facebook, but people can't remember. I don't know the age of everybody, but do you remember when you first, got your parents to sign up for email or something like that because they didn't know what it was? I can remember doing that. And so I don't know if other people can, but the world changes, and in very strange ways sometimes. So I don't have a crystal ball that works, and I don't know what's going to happen. So, but I like to just be prepared because I think it's smart, and prepping can be fun, and because there's all kinds of aspects to it, and it could, it's just interesting. It's in large part, it's a psychological mental exercise for your brain, I think, on how to fight the future, which is really an X-Files thing, which I dubbed into Italian back in my dubbing days in LA or in Burbank back in the day. All right, I'm going to check out the external.
The Italians call it.
What did the Italians call what?
They didn't literally translate the word X, or the letter X in the word files, did they? Because
well, that wasn't in the dialogue. That was just the title of the film. You don't have to translate the title of the film; it's on the film. I had a hell of a time getting the lead actor to pronounce Scully right, because he keeps saying Skelly, and but as far as I had to work with the most annoying Italian dubbing director lady that you could possibly imagine. She had everybody on the planet hated having to work with this person. But people that I didn't know would come up to me and complain about her. And I know I have some funny stories that I'm not going to say on the air because I'm sure that it would be offensive to everyone. Patriot in the Dark says, "Good evening, everyone. He just came out to hang out with Squib." Well, okay.
Hey, Patriot.
Do you guys do a Gun Channel show during the week or something that you're on together? Patriot in the
On
Dark.
Wednesday on Rick's Life, as I see it, we do Shooting with Disabilities. That and Patriot is probably the closest Gun Channels member to me.
Oh, okay. Cool.
He's
You guys
probably about 45 minutes away.
So have you guys gone shooting on Dusty's farm together yet, or?
No, my schedule sucks, so I haven't even met him face to face yet. But we talk every week.
That sounds familiar. Okay. Let's see. Money is money. Okay, well. Yeah, I have thought about. I think Dusty left a text message that said on the texting we do on the cell phone. It said, "Don't forget to turn out the lights when you leave." That was it. Yeah. Maybe I was trying to figure out if it was time to bug out into the jungle. But I don't think they've started raiding people's homes on the first day. But it's the government. It'll take them time to. They'll get around to it if they have a reason to. Like they're like the state is broke, which I mean the state is so stupid. I wouldn't be surprised if that for environmental reasons they try and ban tourism. It's like people complain about coal mining in Virginia or West Virginia. And it's like, just imagine if you live in Hawaii, if they ban tourism, they just made it illegal to rent to a tourist or something, that would kill the economy. It would just die right then and there. And that's what they did to Virginia. That's what Obama did. And for basically based on his political climate warming philosophy. And so naturally they didn't like that. But it's like talking to a Democrat. It's like talking to somebody who listens to MSLSD is like just like talking to a wall. You can't get through their programming. It's like trying to like peel somebody away from a cult. It's I don't know, Squib. How do you deal with these people? Some of the times it's just you just smile and keep walking or something, I guess.
When I worked at my last job, I was in a building with up to 850 people at any given time, and a lot of them were liberal, left-leaning, just really a lot of them college, a lot of them, couldn't change a tire, was used to getting, waited on hand and foot, and if SHTF happened, they'd be the ones that would be dead in the first 2 weeks. I typically kept my mouth shut when somebody tried to start a debate with me. Every now and then, I wouldn't keep my mouth shut, but for the most part, I just smiled, nodded, or just, made like I had something. I usually did have somewhere to go. I didn't really have time to talk, and I use that sometimes. I'm sorry, but I got to go fix something on the third floor or something. Now, I remember one time, somebody who sat near me was complaining about Donald Trump. Oh, that man, I just can't stand that man. I know you voted for him and everything. I never told a single soul in there that I voted for Donald Trump. I never said anything about during the elections. I never came in the next day and woohoo, Hillary lost or nothing. I kept my mouth shut. They just assumed I did. And I didn't say, hey, how dare you assume, or that just whatever. And that didn't really go too well because there were people that I worked with that kind of took it out on me because they didn't win. There's a lot of sore losers out there. The thing is, they're not taking into account that for 8 years, I had to deal with somebody being in charge in the White House that I didn't approve of. You win some, you lose some. And I wasn't a sore loser. And, you know, I've had who's in the White House actually affect my life directly. Bill Clinton did a lot to really, you know, I mean, I helped, but he gave me the, it's a long story. Anyhow, the whole thing is,
I can tell you what Bill Clinton did for me, but tell us what he did for you.
let's just say he created a system that other presidents have created that kind of affect the job market. We'll just leave it at that. But the whole thing is, you know, you get over it, you move on, you deal with it best you can. I knew that with Trump getting elected, that it would help with taxes, would get Obamacare reversed, and I hoped that the Second Amendment would be preserved. But I didn't run around rubbing it in people's faces and stuff like that. And there were times where I would call some of these grown men out for being pansies because they were so used to being waited on hand and foot. And I remember like a 3-inch brown snake. A brown snake is like a garter snake. It's non-poisonous and all that. Was in the lobby. It crawled in because all the glass and that, you know, they heated it up and it was in there sunning itself. This thing is the size of a big earthworm. And there were they called me up there to remove it. And there were grown men walking in and out of the lobby. And when they saw I had a 3-inch snake in my hands, they screamed like little girls and ran away. Grown men. We're talking about 30, 40-year-old men. I said, you know what? They don't get their hands dirty. They make more money than me. And they work a lot less for that amount of money and stuff. But I'll be damned if I'm going to be... No, you're not following what I'm saying.
Right.
I worked with people that didn't get their hands dirty, that didn't work 40 hours a week, that made more money than me, but they couldn't change a tire. They were scared of a 3-inch non-poisonous snake, and just all this, and I would rather be who I am and do the things I had to do to make money and put up with being in a building full of people that hate me because they just assumed because I'm not like them, and bite my tongue more often than not, but still not often enough. And because at the end of the day, that fed my family. It provided for my family. So to hell with what I think, to hell with what, and just, you know, get on with it, move on. And with some of these people, they just, how do they get through life? I don't know. And what amazes me is some of these people made some serious money, and they were paying serious taxes that were created by the people they kept electing. You're electing people that are taking your money to go pay for the deadbeats. You're still paying student loans, and you want to elect somebody who wants to take your hard-earned money. Well, I guess it wasn't that hard-earned, but they want to take your money.
There's a story in the local paper yesterday about they arrested this guy for when they raided his home, they found ice and some methamphetamines, crystal meth, but his what caught the police's attention originally was that he went into a Walmart, filled up 2 grocery carts with stuff, and just bum rushed the exit, and then dumped it into a waiting pickup truck, and then sped off. And of course, all this was on camera. So, but how is that any worse than like the mayor of Hawaii taking the government credit card and paying for hookers with it in Honolulu at the Evergreen Lounge? I mean, how come the governor or the mayor got off? They finally took him to the criminal case for doing that, and he beat the rap. But this guy isn't going to beat the rap. and his major offense was loading, having meth and illegal firearms and stuff, illegally obtained firearms because he was a felon in the first place, and dealing drugs. But I mean, the main thing that brought him to the attention of the police was loading up 2 carts full of stuff from Walmart I mean, when you have the politicians just stealing money left and right, just stealing the taxpayers blind and printing more money so they could spend money that we don't have for our stuff to buy everything they see. They don't just pay for hookers; they pay for hookers for the union. The people. I mean, and it's just it's. I mean, the politicians load up more than just 2 shopping carts full of stuff at Walmart to steal.
I don't care if the politicians steal our money. I don't care if they live in the lap of luxury. I don't care if they get benefits for life after serving only one term. I don't care if they get away with certain things we don't do. As long as they're doing their job for the people, I'm not saying that I think it's right that they steal our money or that they get away with what they do or they get all these benefits. But at the end of the day, I really don't, if they're just doing their job. The thing is, they're not doing their job. And that's what I think a lot of people, they're too busy focused on what these politicians are doing that's bad, and they're not focused on what these politicians just plain aren't doing. You know, if I had somebody serve in the Senate one term, but they got some stuff changed to help out the people in Michigan or on a federal level, the country, and then they bailed and said, screw it, I'm taking the pension and the lifetime of health care. I wouldn't care as long as they did something good. Or if somebody wanted to stay in there for life because they had a mission and they were trying to really make America great again, and they kept running on this, you know, this campaign of listening to their constituents and having some integrity. Maybe behind the scenes they're making the government pay for their vacations or doing this or taking kickbacks or whatever. But if they're doing stuff that really isn't, if they're creating jobs or whatever, who really cares at the end of the day, as long as they're taking care of the people? And you go, well, yeah, but that's dishonest. Yeah, okay, you're right. But it's when they're dishonest and they don't give two craps about us. That's, heck, they could even be honest and not give two craps about us. It's just that. So, I mean, because the reality is these people get to power, they think they're owed stuff, they think they're entitled stuff, and people enable them. And that happens in big business too. These CEOs of these companies get away with murder, they embezzle money, they get all these perks, they get all this. You know what? I don't really care. As long as they don't lay off the workforce. As long as I'm getting my bonus too. Yes, I understand you get 4 bonuses a year and I only get 1, but at least I get a bonus. You know, as long as I get my raise, as long as you don't raise our health insurance next year or whatever it is.
Well, the
I don't really care.
CEO's job is to make sure the stock value increases for the shareholders. That's who he's. So the shareholders only care if what the CEO does based on the value of the stock.
But the CEO and people like that, people at that upper echelon of the company, do have an effect on the employees. So if the CEO finds a way to keep the stockholders happy, they get paid, they get all their ridiculous, crazy benefits or whatever, you know, all this free crap from the company. But at the end of the day, they retain their employees and they make sure their employees are taken. I don't really care if they're sleeping with their secretary and they're getting the company to pay for the abortion. I just don't care. But when they're laying people off and raising your health insurance and cutting your bonus and cutting your raises and taking away some of your benefits and all this other stuff, and they're stealing from the company, then I have. So it's the same thing with them or with a politician. At the end of the day, I just don't get. It's like all the people that are mad about the NRA. Oh, Wayne LaPierre spent $39,000 on suits. So what? My problem is Wayne LaPierre isn't listening to us and doing what we want. I don't care about the money. When we give away our dues, it's not our money anymore. And there's other reasons why him getting $39,000 worth of suits might actually be a good thing, but there's people that have minimum wage jobs that don't understand that. But at the end of the day, that's not the thing that pisses me off. It's the fact that he isn't watching out for the Second Amendment and he isn't listening to the members. If he did that, I wouldn't care. If he's even embezzling money from I wouldn't care. Just do your damn job.
Well, I think I don't want anybody like in a high position of the NRA lobbying Congress and just showing up in flip flops and t-shirt and swim trunks.
Yeah, that's part of it. That's part of it. But you've got a bunch of people that don't make a whole lot of money and don't have any ambition to do things to better their lives, to make more money, that see that and they're all mad and up in arms, and they're not paying attention to the real fact, which is the man's not doing his job for us. Who cares about how much he's spending? Who cares about the vacations they send him? Some of that actually has some, yeah, because if he's taking vacations and buying $39,000 worth of suits and it gets around in those circles that he runs in, they're going to be like, the NRA is obviously doing fine. But when people are going, burn down the NRA and trying to oust him, yeah, he isn't doing his job. But then they're going, we got the NRA on the ropes. So if he's out there partying and vacationing and throwing shindigs and wearing the nicest clothes and being flown around in private jets and stuff like that, and Congress sees that, they're going to be like, damn, these gun guys got lots of money. But there's too many people working at McDonald's and Rite Aid pissed off because they don't have any ambition, that are mad at him about that stuff. At the end of the day, I'm mad at him because he doesn't give two craps about you or me or any of the other NRA members that are saying, hey, could you not back red flag laws? Could you not ban bump stocks? Could you not, do some of the other things you're doing? Could you actually fight for every time they try to take something away? Could you fight for it? But no, we're too busy worried about how much money he makes in his yacht.
Is that the whole thing that's been going down? So has Trump been doing what the NRA tells him to do, and the NRA wanted to ban bump stocks or something?
Pretty much, yeah. That's what a lot of people think, and there's some plausibility to that the NRA is telling them to do this stuff. And it's like, no, look, do what we want, do what's right. If you're really a Second Amendment political organization, then you don't. Sometimes there's if you budge on the Second Amendment, it's because there's got to be some sort of strategic reason. With the exception of that, you don't budge on it. Now, whatever they do with the dues, the money, what they get from all their advertisers, all the people that give them their will, their estate, and all that.
It's your basic principles for living life that you can't budge on. I mean,
it's just like if the mayor gives his entire family cush jobs in the government, but our roads are getting fixed, our town is safe, the lights work, and our property taxes don't go up. I don't give two shits. So whether it's in business or whether it's in a non-profit that I support, or whether it's in the government, I just don't care about all this backdoor stuff, all these privileges and all these other things that go on. Just do your damn job, and I don't care. But there's too many people that are too busy caring about that stuff, and they're not focused on the fact that these people aren't doing their jobs.
Well, it's like if I did a video on what a terrible job the mayor was doing for Mayor Kanoy when he was our mayor, it would probably get like 2 views. But if I did a video, on Mayor Kanoy with the hookers at the Evergreen Lounge in Honolulu and putting it on the government credit card, that thing got almost 10,000 views. So I guess people just are interested in, people will slow down to see a traffic accident or something. It's the same thing. That was, I thought, legitimate political satire on a politician doing what he did. But I don't know. It's a strange world we live in. So I really was hoping Jared would show up and could show us his Gen 5, the red dot. He texted that he was having a lot of fun with on his Gen 5 Glock 17. I've just got a Gen 4. No red dot, iron sights only, or plastic sights. Oh, they're iron. Iron. Just have to tap it to make sure. Anyway, so maybe we'll get him next week and get be able to do like a gun money shot with that. But because we had his Mac 11 on, I think the week before, so that was fun. All right. Anything else we need to talk about this week that we didn't cover yet? Let's see. We did the 700,000
Facebook users jokingly signing up to invade Area 51 in September.
Oh yeah. That reminds me. Let's see. Google Maps. Okay. Groom Lake. Right. Enter. All right. Come on, Google Maps. Oh, wait. It's a big tan spot because there's nothing there. Let's zoom out, zoom out, zoom out. Okay, Groom Lake is somewhere over here. Let's go to satellite view. Okay, Groom Lake is right here. This is Area 51.
You're not screen sharing anything, so we can't see.
No, it's because I'm on my... So everybody just go into Google Maps and type in Groom Lake. You'll see a big white dot in a sea of tan and brown, and there's a runway there.
Is this what you're talking about that I'm sharing right now?
Yep, that's it. That's Groom Lake. Okay. Now, zoom back and look for the nearest highway, which will be 375 north of there.
I'm not looking at Google Maps. This is actually not Google Maps. This is just a picture of Area 51.
So let's find the nearest point on the highway by the Mount Irish Wilderness, and we'll add destination, and then we're going to tell it we're going to walk. So we are going to walk 10 hours and 23 minutes across harsh desert terrain, mountains included, from the highway to Groom Lake. These hippies would run out of granola and Monster Energy drinks before they made it over the mountains, let alone, yeah, okay, it's flat land, mostly flat, and there are some dirt trails, and you could follow the dirt trail, and there's a road, and yep, you could follow the road, and then you hit the mountains. Does the road go through the mountains? Oh, the road does go through the mountains.
They can't just show up with their RVs and crash through the gate and then drive into where the aliens are.
I don't know that they could, but I suppose they could try. They could try to drive off the highway. Let's see, is there a gate there? What do we got?
That's what happened on Independence Day, the movie.
Let's zoom in. Nope, there is no gate. There is a direct road. Ooh, how far down the road will it go? Yeah. Okay. Because I know there's no fence all the way around Nellis. This is just the bombing range for Nellis. So yeah, you could drive to Area 51, but you're definitely not going to walk it because it's 10.5 hours to walk. But yeah, I'd say okay, let's do drive. Ding. Okay, 1.5 hours to drive there from the highway, straight onto Groom Lake, all dirt road, all the way there, over the top of a mountain. And the Air Force has got lots of time to intercept you before you get there.
They use drones, I imagine, for patrolling the perimeter. So, and besides just cameras, they have drones flying around, and they can spot people trying to.
I think though, once somebody got there, they'd be pretty disappointed.
You can't just drive up and ask like for directions to where they see the aliens or something.
Yeah, where all it is a bunch of buildings and runways and stuff like that. So yeah, I guess you can. There is no fence there. When you scroll down onto Google Maps on the 375, the extraterrestrial highway. Zoom down and it puts you on, where you're actually standing on the road. Yeah, there's just a dirt road. There's no gate. There's no nothing. There's no fence. The black mailbox.
There was a fence in the movie.
Well, it's a movie, okay?
There was a gate and a fence. They drove up in the RVs or something, I think. I'm trying to remember Independence Day. They drove up in the RVs. It's been a long time since I've seen that movie. I mean, I saw Predator twice this weekend, but I can't remember the last time I saw Independence Day.
Yeah, Predator's a little bit more real than Independence Day. I mean...
Oh?
Yeah.
The part where the alien lands and starts killing people is real. Okay.
Yeah, I'll believe that before I believe Independence Day, even though there's so many things that are screwed up in Predator. Yeah, there's no signs. I mean, there's a stop sign for people coming off the base, but there's literally no fence or no nothing. So I'm wondering how.
Predator was the minigun.
Yeah, you could carry it, but you couldn't carry all the ammo or the power pack or anything. So I'm wondering if there's anything on it. I'm following the road. It's just, I mean, I've driven through stuff like that. I went to White Sands Missile Range, and looks a lot like that. And there's literally nothing out there when you get there. But yeah, I'm looking for some sort of fence or gate or security checkpoint or something. So, okay, sure. I guess you can go to Area 51 if you want.
Well, the Air Force is is raising some objections to that. Let's read what the Air Force said here. I mean,
Mailbox Road.
Let's see what the Air Force said. Authorities have said that, quote, anyone who commits a crime in or around Area 51, including trespassing, will be arrested and prosecuted to the fullest extent of local and military law. In addition, local cops will work together to curb any attempts to even wander near Area 51 property.
Local cops, there ain't nobody out there.
Well, when you're around military bases, they have security. I mean, I had a flat.
Yeah. It would be military police or contractors.
Well, no, there's cops around military. I mean, when I had a flat tire, I went to my cell phone was on the car seat, and I left it there. And then I looked at it later, and it was the police were looking at my cell phone. I could see a message, like there wasn't a message from the police, but they had like called and done something to my phone to see why I was parked next to a military base. Why I stopped my car there or something. And because they were doing target practice that day when I had a flat, when I had gone over to buy a shotgun, and that's when I blew out my it wasn't a flat tire, I blew a gasket. And so basically I had to buy a remanufactured engine and swap it out, which took a little while to get here. And that's when I did my prepping test to see how long I could live off my preps. While I was waiting for the new engine to get delivered from the mainland, remanufactured engine anyway. But yeah, they basically there's basically somebody stopped by in a van who and all that was in this van was an old white van, a beat up white van, and all that was in there was like a large like Costco sized pack of toilet paper in the whole van. So I asked him, well, where are you from or something? It's like, oh, he said, I just came from Costco to buy some stuff. And so I looked in the van, and all there was one thing of toilet paper. But it was clear to me that he was military security, even though he just looked like a regular guy in t-shirt and cargo pants and flip-flops. But the police were monitoring my phone. He looked at my engine and verified that I wasn't like a terrorist or something. And he just asked, did you call somebody to come tow your car? Like, yeah, they're on their way. And so I said, thanks for your kindness in stopping. I knew he was security, but he was nice to stop, gave me a thing of water, a thing of cold water, just a bottle of cold water or something. And so so basically he was a guy with cold water, some extra cold water bottles, and one container of toilet paper in his van to back his cover story that he was just returning instead of from Costco. Nobody goes to Costco and just buys one large thing of toilet paper. That just doesn't happen. So, so that was the Pakaloa. I think they're busy protesting the telescope up there right now. Once again, because it looks like the TMT is going to get built. Let's see if I could find that picture from our.
I finally found the gate. So there's 2 different dirt roads that take you into the mountains, and once you get partway through the mountains, it becomes a paved road, an asphalt paved road, and it kind of winds around. And then once you get to a certain point, there is a security gate, and there's no other roads that kind of bypass it. So you would have to go through that, and then you still go down the road a long way, and then you go around the dry lake before you actually get to the Area 51 base there. So yeah, my guess is they're using the mountain as natural terrain just to kind of pull you down there a little bit. But I imagine they've got quite a ways that you have to drive that they can intercept you. But yeah, there's 2 dirt roads that lead to a paved road to take you to Groom Lake.
All right, I'm going to try and screen share this thing for the last little bit of local Hawaii flavor of the protesters protesting the telescope, because they don't want anything built up on that mountain. I don't know. It's like everybody in Hawaii protests. They would protest free beer around here. So here's the protesters up at near the Pahakaloa base, but it's the telescope, 30 millimeter telescope access road to all the telescopes up on top of the mountain. Here's where everybody drove up their car and parked it, I guess. Staging area set up by protesters Monday, seen from the Pu'u Hulu across the Mauna Kea access road. All right, here's the police talking with the protesters. Here's the protesters closing the road to the gate by just standing on the road. 7 or 8 protesters, including Hawaiian activists, have chained themselves to about a quarter mile up the access road to the telescopes. So this isn't the main. It doesn't look like they're blocking the just the highway that people use to drive from Hilo to Kona, the Saddle Peak Road, the Daniel K. Inouye highway. I did do a I don't know if I could screen share my some of my files, but I'm going to try. I have to open them first. Open with photo gallery. Let's see if Google will still let me share. So when Governor Ige passed signed the red flag law, I decided I'd do a screen share something else if it'll let me. Oh, looks like it will. I modified the "Go Fuck Yourself" van with kind of a, I could call that a Pro 2.8 meme. But so I wasn't happy that he signed the red flag law. So kind of Governor Ige, go fuck yourself. That's about as best as I could do as far as the protest meme. But for some reason, they don't seem to be able to post that on the local newspapers. But whatever. So that's what I think of our governor. I mean, it's like they're going to revoke the Second Amendment one gun at a time, I guess one person at a time. They just need to use this red flag law to do it instead of trying to repeal the Bill of Rights. You know, I don't know why the Bill of Rights isn't just people just take it as an axiom and then we just live by the Bill of Rights.
I mean, it would be so much simpler if we could just say, this is the Bill of Rights, let's just follow it. But I guess people think they're smarter than the founding fathers, and they just have to learn that. Everybody has to learn things the hard way, I guess. So, yeah, I haven't left Hawaii yet. If I do, Arizona seems like a good place, but I liked Prescott when I was there. And I liked Whiskey Row, especially. But I like the colder weather up on the mountain. Up there, it's a higher elevation. It's a 3,500 foot elevation, as opposed to it's hotter down near sea level, in like Phoenix and places like that, or Tucson. But anyway, okay, I'm going to wrap this show unless there's any other questions out in the external, which I'll check really quick. This is so much stuff here I need to go through. Oh, well, hey, that'd be one. Yeah, everybody will get stoned out and outside of Area 51. They'll go as far as they can go, and then they'll have just everybody will take out their pongs and have a. Well, that's one I won't attend because secondhand smoke and me don't agree anymore. So I won't even get a contact buzz or headache or whatever. But, so I have that video on the end, and maybe it'll let this be the. For some reason, Google live streams is, in addition to the fact that they're going away at I guess August 1st, that they don't seem to let me post like a thumbnail for the live streams anymore. But since we aren't going to have any live streams anymore starting August 1st, so I guess the next week's show will be the last one that we can do on this platform. And so I guess we'll have a party. Bring your whiskey. Bring your whatever form of alcohol or detrimental. We'll abuse our livers and try and kill a few brain cells. If this chat hasn't done that already by the mere effect of its content. So thanks for tuning in, everybody. Thanks for the thumbs up. And we'll be back next week, and I will try and figure out a new platform that Squib was talking about. And I'll post a video about where we're going after Google shuts everything down, so you can still tune in and get your weekly dose of the guns, freedom, and truth until dawn on Lock and Load. So thanks for tuning in, people. This has been the Lock and Load Show.